Welcome to the Healers Café, conversations on health and healing with Dr. Manon.
So welcome to the Healers Café. And today I have Katie Branter with me. She's a doctor of naturopathic medicine, a functional medicine practitioner, a coach, and a certified energy code workshop facilitator. Her mission is to help people and teams find their way back to health and well-being to reach their full potential. And she brings practical mindfulness to everyday life events. So I'm really thrilled to have you here. And we sort of started a small conversation, which I just want to continue because that's the purpose of this show.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I love these discussions.
Well, I'm going to ask you that first. The how did you get into being a practitioner, or what was the initial drive?
Yeah, such a good question. I was just talking this morning to my community about this. When I was young, I wanted to be a doctor. You know, I had those little Fisher Price doctor kit. And I always wanted to be a doctor. But then as I got older, I had a lot of health issues, just weird little things that my doctor never seemed to be able to help me with. At least my second doctor. My first doctor was this amazing medical doctor. She's a woman and she just had a lot of wisdom. And she kind of inspired me. But she was, again, a medical doctor. And I thought, you know what, there's got to be something more, something different, something that resonates more with me. So when I was in high school, I did my first co-op. I did a co-op thing in high school at a health food store. And I learned about naturopathic medicine, and I was like, this is right up my alley, because people would just come up to me and ask me for like tips, like as if I already knew what I was doing when I was young. And I didn't have any of the tools yet, but I always found out, what do we do for this? How do we approach that? And being a sensitive, I've always been told I was too sensitive. I'm fully empathetic and empathic and all those words. I learned that, I think, when you're sort of born with that healing energy, or the knowing. And so I actually did an undergrad, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I didn't think I was smart enough for medical school, which was part of my journey now, is the not enough, working through the not enoughness. Right. And then I had my son on pretty much like the day I was supposed to graduate from my undergrad. So I had a child, and I realized I need to learn all this stuff, and worked for a couple of years. And then I was like, I'm going for my dreams. And this really is an interesting story. I was actually in the hallway of my house applying for jobs. And I swear, my father passed when I was 6. And I swear he pushed me and said a swear word, "What the hell are you doing? Go for your dreams." And that was it. I realized that CCNM had a prep program and I could apply to it. And that's it. And so I went.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And that's not with a child. So
with
you
a 2.5-year-old.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. It's so did I when I was
really. Yeah.
Which was kind of a crazy thing if you think about it.
It's crazy.
Given that, it's such a heavy curriculum, right?
Heavy.
Intense. I remember working full days, and then having dinner, putting everyone to bed, and then waking up as in where's my second wind, and then studying till like 2 a.m, and then off it goes again.
Yeah, it was the exact same thing for me.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, well, anyway, so then you're practicing naturopath, and so where have you been practicing?
Yeah, so when I finished at CCNM, my ex-husband was from Stratford. His family was living there, so I went there for a year, and then and then we split up, and I ended up moving back to Victoria, which is where I'm from. So then I built my own practice here, and then joined my girlfriend, and actually worked in a skincare practice up until my son passed away in 2016.
Yeah, that's fairly recent. Yeah, that must have, I mean, I can't imagine that, frankly. That's,
Yeah, you
yeah,
don't want to.
no, no.
No,
And
no,
I,
yeah.
so did that change things in a massive way? I mean, that's like, when you yourself get sick, it changes you massively. Like I had stage 4 cancer, and
Wow.
that was a big deal because I realized that if the ship was going to keep going forward, I was going to have to be that captain, and at the time I was not having a healthy relationship with myself, but also with the partner I chose. And, but I had 3 kids at that time. And so for me, it was very, yeah, it caused me to go deep into a lot of questioning, and many fundamental things changed. But when it's a child, I'm still at a loss what would possibly, how do you get through that?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good question. I was actually quite ill, not anything diagnosed, but we had been living in a very moldy home, and I had had a lot of health problems, like really insane nervous system, neurological stuff that hadn't been diagnosed. And of course, we know that mold is a neurotoxin.
Yeah.
And there was layers and layers of that, Epstein Barr and all this stuff. So when he died, we had just moved into a new, cleaner home.
Uh,
3 weeks, because we both realized he was struggling with his health, and I was struggling with my health, and we realized it's the house.
wow.
And so but if you do the research, mold affects teenage boys particularly negatively.
Oh, I didn't
uh,
know.
yeah, I had done a lot of research, obviously, that's what we
Obviously,
do. That's
obviously.
what we do.
Yeah.
And I read some really interesting articles about how it affects their neurology and can cause a lot of depression, leading
Ah,
to drug use and, all this stuff, because they just want to get out of their bodies. Because, yeah, I'm not sure exactly why. It has something to do with the neurotransmitters, but it was really when we moved into that house that he started having problems, which coincided essentially with his puberty. And but there were moments where, I just knew, I just had a feeling it wasn't going to be good. This wasn't going to be good. But I was also, I also had gotten pregnant unexpectedly a couple of years before. So I had a young daughter, and trying to balance my practice and our finances and my son's depression, let's say, or anxiety more so, you'd say. So I had I was burnt out,
yeah.
and still taking care of a lot of people in my life. And so when 3 weeks into living here, my nieces had just moved here because we had been through a ton of trauma as a family as well. We almost lost my one niece. My other sister's husband had left her, and they were just moving back. And so it had been 3 years or 2 years really, of just so much overwhelming my nervous system. So I actually didn't know when he passed away, when I found him, how I was going to make it through.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I didn't know, because I didn't have the resources. I mean, I had the knowledge, I guess,
Right.
kind of, on how I was going to heal, but I was in such a state of depletion that it was really touch and go. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I can go either way. And when you lose a child, part of you just wants to go with them. It's like, why would I be here?
Mhm.
But I had this really sweet little 2.5-year-old, almost 3-year-old, that was really vying for my attention every single day. And I thought,
Yeah.
I need to be here for her. And honestly, if she wasn't in my life, I'm not sure I would have made it to where I am now. So that surprise baby, maybe she came for a reason. So yeah, and it was really day to day. It was like every day I would make the choice to put my 2 feet on the ground and get up in the morning. I refuse meds. I mean, my doctor wanted to medicate me, and I was like, if I'm medicated, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to, and don't get me wrong, I do not judge. Like it is the most challenging thing a parent can go through. If you need meds, use them. But I knew for me, I would still have to deal with the pain, and it would just be delayed, and it would affect my nervous system, and it would affect my liver, and it would affect all the things that were struggling already.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't medicate, and I went for lots of walks, and I quit my practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of slowly started to find my way, um, using, I mean, really, I didn't even eat that well. I mean, I don't even remember what I was doing. I think I was drinking wine, like who knows, right? And I wasn't doing the best at that type of care, but my spirit was kind of keeping me, and my uh, responsibilities as a mother. And then I eventually did, a couple years after, get sober. And I wrote a blog about it on Facebook, just my experience of letting go of alcohol, and really gaining clarity on, okay, this is what I have to do for my healing. And so, yeah, I almost, I almost feel like I had spirits, or whatever you want to call them, guiding me through, and sort of every day telling me it's going to be okay. And also just through the sweet voice of my child, mama, mama, you know, or temper tantrums or whatever that, like, I had to focus on. But it was the most challenging thing I've ever been through by far.
Yeah, it makes me think, as I'm actually now creating a training, like a mindfulness training, an awareness training, which is not just meditation or anything like that. It's really much wider, as a continuing education for naturopaths and many other healthcare providers. And I realize, none of the training really prepares you, even though we are integrated, we are holistic. um, there's no preparation for some of the challenges that life, brings. And I'm thinking it's really, we're missing this. Like, all healers need to go through some sort of support, for this kind of reality, because we're told to be so strong that, get on with it, move on, do natural things, like whatever, yeah, sure, or do artificial things if you're
Whatever.
whatever drugs or
Yeah.
whatever, whatever. But the thing is, there's so little care about really our own, what's the right word I'm looking for here? Yeah, our own existence in this world, our own connection to this world, our own, and it's, I find it's interesting, and then we're here, and especially when we're starting off a practice and you're young, and, I've had many young people, it's like, we tell people what to do, and they should have more of this and more of that, but we're not actually listening to their entire context, to their, to what's really going on, so I think, anyway, so I hear you have a new venture or something else coming. So I am very curious what because I do think life, it's not necessarily easy, but it feels guided very much for, for us to be the fullest of who we really are, who are meant to be, so I trust it implicitly, even though it, I mean, it can be extremely challenging, especially if you're an empath, and all of those things that many of us are when we go into these fields, so anyway, but go on about yourself. What did you discover that you wanted to do?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's been a long journey. Like, right, even before Mateo was struggling, I had inklings and ideas of doing group programs for young people and teenagers and young adults. But but then he died, and so that was really around the time I was starting to think of something other than practice. Because the practice was burning me out. And so but not just that, I knew that there was needs that weren't being met. Because, like you say, we're taught what to do, but how to be is really what we need to be looking at, right? Who are we? the wisdom of our bodies, tuning into the wisdom of the messages that we're getting, of our spiritual selves, of the, of our light, of our consciousness. And I really learned, I mean, my son was a star seed, he was one of those, like we always said he was from the stars, even before I kind of understood what all that meant. And he said to me once when he was 3 that, Mama, love is the real trophy in life, and you are my trophy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Manon Bolliger, and I wanted to take a moment to thank you for watching these podcasts. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Also, feel free to leave comments and like it. This way, more people get to find out about this work and about other choices for health. So I think it's really important that we all share this information. I have a free gift to you. It's a 7-sequence email that has tips for every day, and it's a little insight about how to live your life when it comes to health. And it's very much built on how I managed to overcome stage 4 cancer and what it took. So I would love you to have this, and thank you once again for listening to these podcasts.
And I thought, what the, it's like, what 3-year-old says that, right? Like just the wisdom that he had. And up until I remember a couple of days before he died, he put his hands around, I was struggling. We had just moved into the house. I was tired. And he was like, Mom, everything's going to be okay. He puts his, he's growing tall by now. He's 15. Wow. And he would say things like that to me, like everything falls into place as it should, as it needs to, and trust. And I was like, and I just wasn't trusting. I was just in fight or flight. I was freaking out. And because I had never been guided, I had been through a lot of trauma in my life. My father died when I was 6, and my mom almost died when I was 19. I was an empath, so nobody understood how to support someone who is a sensitive. And so throughout my life, I have learned how to do that. And throughout my practice and through all the people that I support and that have supported me. And so I did my why and my purpose finally a couple of weeks ago. And in my human design, I'm in the theme of love. And so my why is to be a loving presence so that those around me can heal and thrive and tune into the love that they have within and the love that they are. And then my purpose, I was like, what am I going to do? So I let it kind of percolate over the last few weeks. And it was like, I'm creating an online community for young adults, teens, and their parents. And we're going to learn all this stuff together. We're going to go through all this stuff. I'm going to teach them practical mindfulness. We're going to learn how to nourish our bodies, our souls, our spirits, our hearts. We're going to learn how to allow grieving. We're going to learn how to love. We're going to learn how to generate loving presence. And so I'm calling it Rise Through Love. And it's going to be a membership site, very affordable, $300 a year. And I'm going to do weekly calls for young adults, teens, and then for parents separately. Because I'm a parent and I had to go, I'm still going through tons of healing. I need guidance. And then the young adults can guide the teenagers. And I've already interviewed a ton of amazing young women. I'm hoping to bring the young men in as well. And they are just so excited about this. They're like, we need this so badly. So there will be an aspect of mentorship. I'm going to bring guests on to do, and I'm going to do Biofield tunings. I'm going to teach them how to bring their consciousness into their lower bellies, how to manage their emotions and let the cycles of emotions run its proper course, how to honor themselves. And I mean, wow. Yeah, so that's.
Wow, that's it makes so much sense, but that's a real true need out there.
I think so.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. It's amazing, how life, it's like you become something because it makes sense.
Yeah.
You're playing with toys and this is the thing. And then it's like you go through the thing and it's great and it shows more and life shows more, so very interesting. So what do you now, when you're reflecting back at, I mean, I'm a naturopath too, as you know, when you're
Yeah.
looking at what is happening in naturopathy, what are your thoughts?
Ooh. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying what I'm going to
Well,
say.
no, just don't. No, let me just put a caveat here. You can get in trouble because our
Yeah.
governing boards, are accountable to the public, and the public, you can't say certain things apparently now, right?
Mm.
So no, do be careful what you say.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if I'm honest, I feel like it's lost heart.
Heart. That's it. That's a simple way. Yeah.
And so I'm going to leave it at that. And I think our profession, there's so many amazing people in it. And um, there's a lot of persecution and fear, and that's being generated, especially right now. And so all I'm going to say, it needs healing. You can feel it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's, there's been, persecution amongst our own members for literally doing no harm.
literally, yeah.
Literally doing no harm and helping.
And helping, yeah.
And that there isn't, that we don't have the community that can support and stand up to that is it's disheartening. There we go.
Yeah.
Literally disheartening, so
Yeah. I feel
yeah,
that
no,
way.
I feel that way too. And I feel that that we've really sold out to the idea of green medicine. It's
Yep.
not, yeah, it's not what it was when, the people who trained me as a naturopath, um, where they came from. I mean, we'd varied people, and yes, there was science. It's not that science is wrong, it's that there's more to all healing than just one little component. And I feel that we've become more rigid and more small and more so-called scientific, but it isn't really science anymore, the way we're looking at things, so
Yeah.
not, we can't all be put in a bottle. That's the thing.
Exactly. Or an IV drip.
Or an IV drip. Yeah. And again, that can be useful.
Absolutely. It's all useful.
Yeah.
Right. It's
It's
just,
the perspective, right? It's
yeah.
the bigger, it's what holds it all together, which is kind of problematic at this point, so yeah. No, I was just curious what you thought. Given
I agree. So that's how I
your
feel. But
your future, or where you're going, so. And I do think that what you're doing is so needed, because when we look at our professionals, none of the professions really do that. Even nursing, that used to be very much catered to being bedside, really helping the patient, which is a huge part.
yeah.
Now they're administrators.
Yeah.
They're really literally running around filling the prescriptions, and that's it, and they're not happy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
They're all
you
burnt
have,
out. I treat a lot of them.
well, exactly. Burnt out. Yeah. And then you've got a lot of medical doctors, that they feel like they're pharma peddlers,
Yeah.
and even though there's nothing wrong with some of the drugs, and some of the times it saves people's lives, there's no doubt, for mostly, life-threatening things, if you've got a chronic condition that hasn't been addressed properly, okay. But I mean, a lot of them are not happy. There's a very high suicide
Yeah.
rate
Yeah.
amongst them, so if we look at all the different healing professionals, and I'm not talking about all of them in my few examples, but we're really we're missing the mark about I guess changing or helping people be more empowered and yet be trusted advisors on their path. It's like we have knowledge. Like, of course, we should be part of the picture, but it's almost like the equation is wrong, So I don't know. Yeah, it's been, I've been thinking about that a lot, and that's why I guess we're talking about it.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree with you 100%.
Mm.
There's just so much more available. And I think the empowerment piece is so huge right now, because the load for the doctors, the load for the even public health officials. I have a few friends who are in that right now, and they're overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And it would be so incredible if we could work as a integrative team, and if we can really gain the perspectives of it's not just one way. There's many ways that we could be supporting everybody, right? Bringing in the naturopathy with the emergency medicine, with the
Absolutely.
public health, with the acupuncturists. They're brilliant, the Ayurvedic practitioners. Imagine,
Yeah.
right, if we worked together instead of this, delineated, oh, it's that profession, everybody's separate, and oh, they're wrong, and it's, and it's really part of the problem of what's happening in the world right now. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, no, it's really, I was just part of a global, what I forget the name of the conference. Um, it was a global scientific guild, and we had speakers, international speakers from everywhere, from um, the old Russia, but from Taiwan, from
Amazing.
just everywhere, and it was incredible. Many of them were researchers with many published papers. One thing that was in common with everybody is pretty well what we're talking about today. And it doesn't matter that they were this or that. Some of them were medical doctors. There were a few naturopathic doctors, Chinese medical doctors, and a lot of just researchers. And what I became amazed at, because homeopathy was a big part of my practice, is the technologies now, the frequencies, all of these things that, of course, I didn't learn 30 years ago, and
Yeah.
weren't really the same way available. But there's so much happening in that field, working even remotely, which is, you know, which makes sense on some level, on frequency, on heart connection, yes. And especially if you're highly intuitive, you have a sense of this, and the more sensitive you are, usually the more you can tap into that. um, but it's really uncanny what's out there. So I
Yep.
feel like I'm in a complete new world of looking at scientists who have published all these medical papers working with frequency, and I'm just like, wow, I like frequency really resonates with me. Sound therapy and all that. And I'm like, it makes complete sense, though I don't know how and why. It's just that knowing that there's a resonance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned last year with another naturopath. We drove down to Portland and learned Biofield tuning.
Yeah. So
And
tell me about that. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's a type of sound therapy that works on the field, but you can work on the chakras and the organ systems and finding rhythms. And I just kind of did it for fun because I hadn't done a CE for a long time. I got my
Yeah.
license back. We wanted to go for a road trip.
Right.
you know,
Sure.
we were just like, we're on the same wavelength as other ND and I.
Yeah.
Um, but then COVID hit right after we got home because it was end of February of
Right.
last year. So I
Okay.
was like, and we only learned the foundational stuff, but I was like, I can do this. I'm going to try doing some group stuff because I was leading a women's group, and holy, like I would do adrenal resets, and I had just learned all this. But it came so naturally to me. I just knew what I was doing. So I've done hundreds of them over the course of the last year.
Wow.
And wow, the changes I've seen in people has been more than any supplement I've ever given anybody by like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of percentages.
Oh, that's
Um,
encouraging.
yeah, and just seeing, and that's something I'm going to be doing is group tunings for those who want to take part in that, because of course there's always permission when you're working on the energy
Yes.
field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Informed consent is really important, and so I always ask for that.
Mhm.
But it's been and I've done my own tunings, obviously, heal the healer, always have
Yep.
to do your own work, always.
Yeah.
And it's been unbelievable. And so that's working with different hertz. Like she actually had her own, Eileen McCusick, who's the one who, she's been in the Shift Network. She's pretty amazing. She's the one who came up with this particular type of
Mhm.
tuning.
Okay.
She had to make her own forks, and because the forks weren't handling what she was wanting to do in the field. And because the energy is so dense now, she has this whole set of forks, but that works on the field, and it helps with PTSD, it helps with anxiety, it helps with the immune system, digestion. Like it's been unbelievable, and so that's something that I just started to incorporate in the last year, and has been truly beautiful work. So Biofield tuning, look it up. It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
And have you had because we were allowed to do labs and that, have you been able to do before and afters outside of the symptomatology? Like, have people done that, or
You know what, it's so challenging right now because people's finances are lower,
right?
because
So they're
we
not
have to
going to
pay.
do tests
Yeah.
that are not,
Yeah.
and
And
you
it's
can't do it in clinic. Yeah.
it's
Okay.
hard to do. And I was thinking about that, doing some form of research on that, but
Yeah.
I just don't have the energy, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just want to see my patients getting better, and that's what's happening on a mental health level and on a physical level, which is pretty beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
especially
I,
in young people, because they don't have as many layers as we do,
right,
so
right,
they
right.
heal quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not, the reason I asked for research is because the same thing I did, I don't know if you know about Bowen therapy.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So I was using that to deal with trauma, and
Beautiful.
both physical, but and emotional. And um, so many times I need to research this. I need to show what I'm like, to demonstrate what I'm seeing with my very own eyes. And at this point, it's still, it's still one of those things. I wish I had the research um, to show
Yeah.
this, to be able to really incorporate it, especially now that we're doing this major witch hunt,
Yeah.
and anything that doesn't have all the proof, we soon may not be able to do or practice. And the medical doctors, in my newsletter, this will come up, but they've been asked, this is in Ontario, to stop using CAM practices.
Really?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
missed that. I think I missed that petition.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it'll come. You can join
Oh,
my
it'll show up.
newsletter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been off my Facebook group because I need to be off Facebook,
Yeah.
but I think it showed up on there. Wow, that's
Yeah. But it's crazy. It's like, what
yeah.
are we doing? Like it's really,
Well, we could
we could maybe talk, but maybe another time.
yeah, maybe another discussion off air.
Yeah. So that way that podcast stays alive, and
Exactly. That we could still have these discussions.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Anyway, well, I'm really excited for you. That sounds like a perfect. I'm sure you will be connected as you do this with your son.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
I hope so, as a legacy to him too. So
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, so where do we get hold of you?
yeah, so the best place is just my website or my email. So it's Dr. Katie Branter.com.
Okay.
KatieBranter.com. And then, yeah, it's just at drkatiebranter@gmail.com for my email.
Okay, perfect. And I'll have the details in what's written underneath the podcast too.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's been so lovely. And yeah.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Café with Dr. Manon. For more information, go to drmanonbolliger.com.